A Sweet 16 party in Alabama leads to tragedy as a mass shooting comes in, and unfortunately, this particular mass shooting actually starts to disappear out of the news almost right away because, well, I think you guessed why, but we'll talk about that, what's happening there, and what's going on with that. Hundreds of teenagers descend on downtown Chicago to torch cars, loot, break windows, and in general just get into more mischief. So we'll talk about that. What the politicians are saying about it, what the news is saying about it, and what this means for us going forward. 18 people are arrested in sex crimes against a child who is 13 years old, but they have been going on for 7 years. So we've got a real wood chipper moment that we have got to talk about later on. And a group of Jews against DeSantis descend on a DeSantis event and stage a protest. There are some people out there that aren't buying this entire thing. So we'll talk about that, what it means, if it's reality, if it's fake, or what we do from there. It is going to be all this and more. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. We are welcoming a new audience in tonight as we are going over to the Rumble side, and it looks like we've already got 4 people gathering in over there. Now, keep in mind with Rumble, just like with Odyssey, which we are also live with at this point, the chats do not marry. So I'm actually opening up the live chats right here, and we will see what's happening with that. But yeah, let's get this up here and get started. So I'll be checking back, and I'll be looking through all 3 of the live chat programs. The live chat for YouTube, Twitch, and not DLive, because that's still not working for us for whatever reason, by the way, will appear on the screen. So if you want to get your comments up on the screen, you're going to have to go to one of those 2 platforms. Otherwise, I will be checking back. I'll keep the Rumble stream up so we can look at from there and have guys talk over there. But yeah, the chats for Rumble and Odyssey do not marry to the official. And also keep in mind, this is Monday, so we'll be going over some of your live chat as well today. It's a thing that I do at the end of Monday to give back a kind of a thank you for the people who have come back in here and chatted up in the live chat. So we'll be looking over the live chat that's coming on the main platforms over here. Also, I'll be looking over at the Rumble side as well. We'll look at some of that. We'll look and see what we have going on there. But that will be at the end of the show, and I will be intermittently reacting to some of the live chat throughout the show as well here today. But we're going to get started over here on Contemporary because we've got a lot to go over. This was kind of the wild weekend to end all wild weekends this weekend, so we'll be going over some of that. And also, if you're on any platform over here, like, comment, subscribe, follow. We're also on Instagram over there too, so if we've got some people coming in there and chatting, we'll go over some of that today. But we are going to get started on everything that happened over this wild weekend over here on Contemporary. Let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and Overruled with KTZed as we bring you a better news and culture experience for the common man from the common man. That's right. For too long, we have got all of our news and commentary and culture from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses. No more. Go check out that great programming from people who are just like you, who've had to make some of the same decisions that you've had to make in life, and people who can actually relate to some of the things that you are looking forward to in both a news and a culture experience, and not somebody who wants to tell you what it is that you really want from a news and culture experience. And go check out all of those great people. I will vouch for all of them. They're all great friends to me and to life and liberty. And let's get into the main news of the day. We're going to start today with our finance, as we always do. Looking in at the Dow to start with, which had a bit of a rough day and a little bit of a roller coaster. It did wind up higher on the day at 33,987.18. Not quite able to go back and clear that 34,000 mark, but we are at a very, very close mark for that. That is up. Yes, as I was talking, the chat does work over here, but it's not married to the rest of the chat, so it won't pop up on the screen, and you won't be able to interact with the YouTube and the Twitchers if they do come over here. We are up 100.71 points, or 0.3% on the day. So looks like a little bit of a, I mean, there was the dive off there, but it just climbed itself right back. It was what the Donald would have called a V-shaped recovery. It's going to be V-shaped. It's going to come back. You're going to be great. Everything's going to be great and wonderful. Looking in at the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin, conversely, took a tumble today, down to 529.80. That is down $795 and 60 US cents on the day, bringing us back out to the 5-day to see what happened over the weekend. It does appear that we have one other bit of a drop here before we took the main drop off of the day today. So it looks like crypto is starting to struggle a little bit, and some of that is going to be based on the fact that crypto is one of the more liquid assets that you have. You know, it's not like selling a stock or selling your house if you need to, or selling your car, or even selling gold or silver on the markets. If you've got Coinbase and you've got a PayPal account, you can turn that Bitcoin or whichever other crypto that you happen to carry into US dollars cash at just about a moment's notice. I think it takes like 20 minutes tops. And then you've got cash in your pocket for gas, diapers, food, groceries, whatever it is that you need in a hurry, because, hey, these supply chains are making everything rougher. But that's what we see coming off the 5-day for our Bitcoin. Looking in at the gas prices around Madison, this is not official financial advice, this is not me telling you what's going to happen in the crystal ball, but we may be able to take a little bit of relief on the gas prices. On the west side, we're still seeing all those 360s everywhere. But hey, look over on the east side of Madison where everything has dropped down to 340s. So these may not reflect your local stations, but it's worth taking a look at to see if some of the stations in your area have dropped, and maybe going and getting a little bit of a top off on those ones before everything spikes back up. So that is what we are seeing on the gas prices. Let's grab one from IBD, see what happened on the markets today. What's the point if the stuff that can get you in trouble doesn't show up on the screen? Well, again, if I could, I would marry the two of them together. I absolutely would. Because I do want everybody across all the platforms to be able to communicate back and forth with each other. And, I mean, there's been D-Live, so there's been some spicy shit on the screen. Dow Futures, Netflix, Tesla earnings on deck. What to do now in today's stock market? From Scott Latonin. Dow futures were lower ahead of Tuesday's open, with first quarter earnings season set to heat up this week. Netflix earnings are out on Tuesday, while Tesla earnings are set for Wednesday. Early Tuesday, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, and Lockheed Martin are all set for their quarterly earnings results. Intuitive Surgical and Netflix will report after the close. On Monday, the Dow Industrial Average rose 0.3, with Walgreens Boots Alliance and Boeing big winners. Walgreens stock rallied 1.7%, while Boeing shares climbed 1.6. S&P and tech-heavy NASDAQ composite each climbed 0.3. EV leader Tesla traded down 1% on Monday. Among the Dow stocks, Apple inched higher and Microsoft rose 0.9 in today's stock market action. 5 below, Floor & Decor, IBD leaderboard watch list stock Lululemon Athletica, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals, as well as Dow Jones stock Cisco Systems, JP Morgan Chase, Nike, and Visa are among the top stocks to buy and watch with the ongoing market rally. JP Morgan and Lululemon were featured in this week's Stocks Nearby Zone column. So a lot of stuff moving, a lot of action in the markets today. On the futures ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, Dow futures, S&P 500 futures, and NASDAQ futures were all down 0.1. In overnight trading, remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The 10-year yield rose 3.59% on Monday. Last year, the 10-year yield rebounded from its lowest level since mid-September. U.S. oil prices dropped Monday. West Texas Intermediate futures settled just below $81 a barrel. So, a few things to look at there, and that's probably why we're starting to see some drop in gas prices on the east side of Madison. While the west side is staying high, we will see what happens there. Let's grab the layoffs report, and then we are going to move right into Alabama. From Insider, I'm a former Microsoft VP of HR. Here are the real reasons why layoffs are happening and how much longer they'll last. I am willing to bet that this is going to be a full-on lie. I'm going to say that right off the bat. From Chris Williams. I was vice president of HR at Microsoft at the peak of the dot-com bubble. I lived, like most of us, through the collapse of '08. I've seen this movie before. Here are 3 reasons why the tech industry is laying people off, and why it's not a sign that tech is collapsing. Number 1 is COVID exuberance. Some industries, like travel and entertainment, were devastated when everyone was stuck at home. Tech was just the opposite. Everyone stuck in their home on their computers was a gold mine. Companies saw unprecedented demand and opportunity. Some saw it as a sea change. Yeah, that's exactly what happened in '08 too. The biggest was Amazon, who saw a huge shift to e-commerce as not just a blip, but a change in buying habits. They hired breathlessly, doubling from 800,000 employees in 2019 to over 1.6 million in 2021. Alas, when things opened back up, we also returned to brick-and-mortar stores. Amazon had overhired and has needed to retreat. The same was true for other companies in tech. Microsoft, Google, Meta, and even Pelotons all saw the pandemic as a sea change. Though it changed many things, the rebound has shown the changes to be less dramatic. They too have found themselves to have overhired. Alan Greenspan called the dot-com bubble irrational exuberance. COVID has been a bit like that too. 2 is shedding excess. You could have just put that into 1. We overhired. Now we're underhiring. Now we're getting rid of the people we overhired. The optics, some of the layoffs we've seen in tech, are the ones that the companies have probably wished that they could do for years, some of the above for example. But they didn't want to be seen by the Wall Street as companies at risk. They didn't want to be the only ones laying people off. While the companies were still hiring, or at least staying stable, the optics would have sent their stocks into a nosedive. With the cover of many companies doing layoffs, there was safety in numbers. Companies who otherwise would have avoided layoffs have done them. Even notoriously cautious and stable Apple has used this to realign their retail organization and lay off a small number. We're in a season of layoffs because apparently this is the bright side, and it's not clear we've seen the last or worst of it. I expect to see more coming through summer and into the fall. That said, there's no reason to see the layoffs as a harbinger of doom and gloom for the tech world. There are almost too many rays of hope to count. There's revolution AI will bring. Microsoft is betting on a company that every aspect of knowledge work will be impacted, and even that may be conservative. Machine learning and tools like ChatGPT will have profound impact across tech and beyond. There's the amazing world of quantum computing that will completely reset our yardstick for measurement of computer performance. It too will overhaul the worlds of cryptography, finance, modeling, genomics, and on and on. Then there's the virtual world. Perhaps Meta is overselling the metaverse, but there's plenty of reason to be optimistic. For AR, this application in industrial and other real-world mixed scenarios are endless. Even Apple is rumored to be putting serious effort in here. Well, and that's the thing with technology too. I mean, for what we had and what we were doing before, I mean, this CEO or VP of HR is right. We have a major shift in what our technology and our technology base is. So a lot of this is going to be changing, and some of it's going to be changing for the better. But I mean, it's the same thing. People said back in the day when the automobile started becoming popular, it was going to put the people who shoveled up the horse poop out of business. Well, new jobs opened up for that person. There will always be new jobs, and I mean, that's the thing that Andrew Yang can't wrap his head around. No matter what happens in technology, no matter what happens outside of technology, there is always going to be a shift, and there's always going to be new jobs. And they may be different, and some people may not be able to learn into them. Some of them may be forced into early retirement, but there's always going to be another job out there. There's always going to be something that somebody wants to do and either doesn't have the time to do or just doesn't have the knowledge or want to do themselves. No, that one's getting laid off too. Haven't you heard that one? All right. Let's talk about our wild weekend. And we're going to start in Alabama today. From ABC News, I have friends in Alabama. From the server that I'm in Grant with, by the way. 4 people killed, 28 hurt in mass shooting at Alabama birthday party. The shooter is still at large. From Bill Hutchinson, Alondra Valier, and Emily Shapiro. 4 people were killed and 28 others injured when a mass shooting broke out in a crowded Sweet 16 birthday party in rural Dadeville, Alabama on Saturday night, the authorities said. The shooter is still at large. And of course, we've got the enough is enough from the Vice President in the White House. Slain victims were 17 to 23. We'll come back to the Harris thing at one point. We will not give the names, especially because there is a minor involved. Police have solid leads, but need help from the public. The Dadeville Police Department has solid leads as they search for the suspected shooter, but authorities still need help from the public. Dadeville Police Chief Jonathan Floyd told ABC News on Monday. Floyd asked anyone with photos or videos from Saturday night's Sweet 16 party to come forward, but that's going to be because as soon as they find out who it is in rural Alabama, it's never going to make it to the mainstream news, and it's going to be more of a local thing. Let's go back and talk about what BP Harris is saying, because of course this is going to be our let's all get rid of all the guns thing. Vice President Kamala Harris tweeted on Monday that enough is enough in the wake of another senseless mass shooting, and called on state and federal legislators to step up and act. Parents shouldn't have to pray their babies come home from school on or birthday party. The majority of Americans, including gun owners, support common sense gun safety laws. And we need leaders in state houses and Congress to step up with the courage to step up and act. Translation: Republicans are evil because they will not ban guns. Let's talk a bit more about this from CBS. This is not from CBS. That was the next story. How did that get up the top there? I'm sorry, from CNN. All 4 young victims killed in an Alabama Sweet 16 party are identified as investigators scramble to find the assailant. From Holly Yan, Isabel Rosales, Chris Boyette, and Carol Alvarado. 2 days after a killer gunned down revelers celebrating a Sweet 16 party, police say they have strong leads in the massacre that left 4 people dead, at least 28 others injured, and a small Alabama city tormented by confusion and grief. In addition to the young victims killed, at least 15 teens were shot and hospitalized Saturday night in Dadeville. Despite the leads, police have not yet released any information about a possible suspect or motive behind the violence. I'm not really surprised by that. While Dadeville's police chief asked for patience with the investigation, he and state officials urged anyone who has pictures or information from the scene to help authorities. So, not giving the names, but giving the faces. This is a part of the reason why I suspect they're not coming out of this. And again, because there was a minor involved, I chose not to read the names of the victims. But, I mean, I hate to be the one that has to say this, but what do these 4 people, or these 3 people that we see here have in common? It's not that hard to look at and figure that out. And my guess is mostly, and I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter over this the other day too. Because if this is what I suspect this is, then this particular person who loves guns, he blocked me after I pointed out that every town disagrees with his assessment on this, but this person who loves guns but doesn't think teenagers should have them will come out and say that, well, I don't think that gang violence counts as mass shootings, even though every town for gun safety does. That's why they get so many mass shootings. so early on in the year. 350 mass shootings in 100 days into the year. And the way that they constantly come out and do this. If I had to put any kind of a guess on this, we're never going to get a motive. We're never going to get a description. We're never even going to get a comment on the arrest of this. This is probably going to disappear out of the news as soon as they find the suspect, based on the fact that I'm guessing this is either, I'm almost guaranteed this is black on black violence, and I would have a guess to say that this is probably somewhere gang related. Which means disappears out of the news. It would disappear even faster if we found out that it was handgun related on top of it. DM Ryan says suicide should not count in gun violence. That's a fair assessment, actually. But we're talking mass shooting on this one. That is a fair assessment. You are absolutely correct. I cannot stress this enough. We absolutely need you to share it, Sergeant Jeremy J. Burkett of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency said. Keenan Cooper, who was DJing at the party when gunfire erupted, said he didn't notice any fight or disturbance before the shooting. It's really sad to see all the kids that were shot and the ones that are deceased, Cooper told CNN. And seeing all those bodies on the front door, all those kids are probably going to be traumatized. In addition to the 4 victims killed, 28 others were injured, Burkett said. The sergeant did not specify the ages of the 28 people injured or whether they were all shot, but he said some of the victims were critically injured. I'm sure, because they said it was a crowded party, I do think that there's a possibility that there's possibly some trample damage here, because if it's crowded and you hear a gunshot go off, you know. On Monday, Tallapoosa County Coroner Mike Knox identified the 4 victims that were killed. Corbin Demetri Holston, 23-year-old male from Dadeville. Marcia Emmanuel Collins, a 19-year-old from Opelika. Velstavius Dowell, an 18-year-old from Camp Hill, Alabama, and a senior at Dadeville High School. And per contemporary standards, the last name I will not read, as this young woman was a minor. Two best friends and very respectful children were killed. Collins was a high school football player and an aspiring musician who looked forward to attending Louisiana State in the fall, his father Martin Collins told CNN. He graduated from Opelika in 2022 and was accepted to LSU for the fall semester, but he decided to take a year off to pursue a music career and spend more time with his mother before heading out of state for college. So, several are fighting for their lives, too. Just a lot of carnage for this. And the Krasensteins are already coming out saying, it was the guns! The guns just did this all by themselves! I'm going to skip this one from NPR just based on the fact that we've reviewed this and know who the victims were. But we did have one instance of the left can't meme as well. Masterpiece Events from Raven Tolbert hosting birthday party, engagement party, bridal shower, baby shower, book signing, business event, and in the very, very obvious changed font, gun range. It's kind of funny, except, I mean, this is the grave kind of humor. I'm going to go with the left can't meme on this one. Alright. So that's what's happening in Alabama. Senseless. But, again, given everything that I've just seen off of this, I'm going to go with doesn't fit the narrative, and it's probably going to be dismissed. By the way, another one that doesn't fit the narrative, from CBS. Walgreens employee claims self-defense in shooting of pregnant woman workers say was caught shoplifting. From Kara Tabachnik. A woman who was 7 months pregnant was shot by a Walgreens employee in Nashville this week after he suspected she had stolen cosmetics from its pharmacy, police said. Now, she and her newborn baby remain hospitalized after undergoing an emergency C-section. A Walgreens team leader shot 24-year-old Travancia Ferguson in the store's parking lot on Wednesday afternoon after he followed her out of the store when he was tipped off to the alleged shoplifting, Nashville police said in a news statement. Matarius Boyd claims he fired his semi-automatic in defense because he said he was in fear and didn't know if Ferguson and another woman she was with were armed, police said. Another employee told Boyd 2 women were allegedly shoplifting cosmetics from the store. Police said he began recording the women on his cell phone as they placed items in a shopping cart and a large shoulder bag, police said. And he later followed the women in the car in the parking lot as they began to place items in the car's trunks. As he approached the rear of the car, one of the women pulled out a can of mace and sprayed as Boyd started shooting, according to police. CBS News reached out to Walgreens for comment, but did not immediately hear back. The other woman took Ferguson, who had multiple gunshot wounds, to the hospital and then disappeared, police said. An emergency C-section was performed on the victim, police said, and the baby was not injured by the gunfire. Thank God for that. At last report Thursday, both Ferguson and the baby were hospitalized in critical condition, police said. The Nashville District Attorney will determine whether Boyd will face charges. Yeah, he will. In October of 2022, Boyd himself was charged with disorderly conduct for refusing to leave a Best Buy store after a dispute over a PlayStation 5. According to court records, employees told Boyd the PS5 wasn't in stock, but he refused to leave, court records said. The charge was later dismissed, according to records. So, I mean, we're not in a situation where he was a convicted felon and in possession of a firearm. I'm going to talk a lot about what's wrong here. Number 1, handgun. Number 2, again, black on black. This is another one that is just going to go completely unreported, and this one is egregious. I know that I differ with my friend Sewell on this when I talk about this, because Sewell comes out and says, oh, it was clear self-defense. She maced him. From the way that it's described in the ABC or the CBS article here, I don't necessarily believe that was the case. Because it sounds to me, if she was still spraying when he was shooting, he was probably out there and already drawn. Which means he was probably already pointing at her when she maced. I'd love to see security camera footage on this, by the way. Let's see if he walked out of the store already drawn at 21 years old. There are some other problems with this. Number 2 is that Walgreens has a company policy, from what people are describing, that no firearms are allowed in their stores, which, I mean, I've seen the signs outside the doors. So no firearms by employees, no firearms inside the store, no weapons inside the store, which is understandable when they have that level of high narcotics inside their store. I mean, I would understand that myself. But this in and of just entirely seems like this is the wrong situation. And I don't know if this woman stole or not either, by the way. I actually have no idea. It doesn't seem that anybody else that's involved in the story knows that either. There was a suspicion, obviously. Before I make any judgment on this, I want to see a security camera footage on this. But I'm pretty sure this guy's going to be charged and he's going to be put away for a while. Let's see, what else happened? Move on to Chicago. The 16th and 17th District Chicago Police Scanner, giving us our first report. Recap of downtown Chicago tonight at what the teens were doing tonight. 3 shot. Multiple instances of shots fired. People robbed. Others maced. Chicago Transit Authority employees beaten. Attempt to break into the Art Institute of Chicago, which I don't know, by the way, if this is going to be a place. I've never been to the Art Institute. I know it's a school, but if they're going to have anything like actual originals on display, I'm sure that they have a ton of prints. But we've got a lot of articles on this one. Reading from Fox 32 to start, out of Chicago, which is under a freeze warning. That's, by the way, this is wild. Up here in western Wisconsin, where I live, it was 90 degrees on Thursday. There are currently 8 inches of snow on the ground. Figure that one out. Hundreds of teenagers flood into downtown Chicago, smashing car windows, prompting police response. This coming from the Fox 32 digital team. Let's look at... I'm actually not going to do the video from this one. We'll look at this in a bit, but I'm going to read from the articles first, because if they're going to do the narration, I'm not going to... I'm not going to read the article and listen to them read the article. And Fox 32 is really good about that. Hundreds of teenagers flooded into downtown Chicago on Saturday night, smashing car windows, trying to get into Millennium Park and prompting a major police response. At least one person in a car was attacked. Shots were fired near the corner of Madison and Michigan, and Fox 32 Chicago decided it was unsafe to keep our news crew on the scene. You think? 2 teens were wounded by gunfire. Just put press in your hat, then they'll leave you alone. 2 teens were wounded by gunfire in the crowds in the first block of East Washington Street. A 16 and 17-year-old boy were taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in fair condition with gunshot wounds. Let's get a map. Okay. I try to get a map every time I look at some of this here. Here we go. So, I don't see... I know that they're kind of in this neighborhood, because they said they were trying to break into... Yep, right here. There it is. They were trying to break into Millennium Park. So this is where it all started, was here. Which, by the way, is not a bad neighborhood of Chicago. Like, this is going to be the area where they're going to have the DNC. This kind of area. With a massive police presence. You know, you've got the piers over here. This is where all the rich people are. These are the fun places. You've got the Willis Tower. I've driven through here. I've never set foot here, but I've driven through here. I attempted to set foot here one night when I was bored. And it just didn't work. Because this, I believe, is Sheridan Road. Or, no, this one is. Because that goes up, that's 41. Is that still 41, by the way? Yes, it is. US 41. I thought they changed that to an interstate already. Yeah, basically I came down here, made the loop back around, and got back on 110 and back to 90 when I was down here. But yeah, this is the fancy area. Let's keep reading. 2 teens were wounded by gunfire in the crowds on the first block of East Washington Street. A 16 and 17-year-old boy were taken to Northwestern in fair condition with gunshot wounds. Where is Washington Street? There you go, West Washington right there. So, in the first block. Right here. Next to Chicago Christmas Tree in Wrigley Square. A woman whose car was smashed by people jumping on the windshield said her husband was beaten as he sat in the driver's seat. He's been taken to Northwestern Memorial as well. Police were escorting tourists and others back to their cars in the Millennium Park garage. The crowd was trying to get to Millennium Park, but there were checkpoints around the perimeter and people under 21 were not allowed in without an adult. I'm surprised that worked, by the way. Video posted on social media shows people standing on top of a CTA bus and dancing. The CTA said that some service through the downtown area was disrupted on Saturday night because of the police activity. No, I'm pretty sure that it was disrupted Saturday night through the people, or because of the people who were smashing cars in the middle of the road. Chicago police said 9 adults and 6 juveniles were arrested. Most were charged with reckless conduct. A 16-year-old boy was charged with unlawful use of a weapon, and 2 people were charged with possession of a stolen vehicle. Everyone is welcome and encouraged to enjoy all that Chicago has to offer, including the popular downtown area, but criminal activity will never be tolerated, police said in a statement. Those engaged in criminal activity will be arrested and held accountable and then turned loose by a sympathetic DA who thinks that arresting and charging these people is racist. Oops, did I say that last part out loud? This is the second time this weekend that a group of rowdy teenagers has prompted a police response. On Friday night, hundreds of kids went to 31st Avenue and a 14-year-old was shot. Chicago Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson said the city needs a comprehensive approach to improve public safety. Let's see, 31st Avenue Beach. Let's have a look. If you're on a beach, you're probably down here somewhere. There's a Navy pier. That might be further down south. No, right there. 31st Street Bridge, Beach. So, quite a distance between the two, actually. In no way do I condone the destructive activity that we saw in the Loop and Lakefront this weekend, Johnson said in a statement. It's unacceptable and has no place in our city. However, it's not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities. We'll be talking a little bit more about that later. In a statement released on Sunday, outgoing Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said parents need to instill proper values in their children. Really? That's what you're going with? Look, man, parents and guardians must know where their children are and be responsible for their actions. That's not a Democrat position by any stretch of the imagination. Instilling the important values of respect for people and property must begin at home. Really? That is like the furthest thing from a Democrat and especially progressive position I've ever heard. Grant says Chicago gets what it fucking deserves. So we've got some more on that one here. The Daily Mail, touching a bit on this as well. Hundreds of teens caused fire chaos in downtown Chicago as they torch cars and rampage organized on social media. Probably on Facebook or Twitter, by the way, too. Just putting that one out there. You know, that dangerous, dangerous place, Parlor, where far-right extremists plan insurrections. This is from Vanessa Cerna and James Gordon for DailyMail.com. A crowd of more than 100 rowdy teenagers turned violent in downtown Chicago on Saturday night as dozens torched and smashed cars while blaring music in a teen trend that left 2 with gunshot wounds. Shocking footage showed some teenagers jumping on a bus while others started a massive brawl after descending on Millennium Park and attempting to breach barricades. I hope Porch Boys are on tonight. I want to hear what Midget B has to say about this. I'm not going to say where, but Chicago's a big place. But I know that Midget B is he's from the Chicago area originally. I'd love to hear what he has to say about this. Gunshots rang out with some rounds striking 2 teenage boys aged 16 and 17. The 2 youths were transported to a nearby hospital in fair condition. A total of 15 people, 9 adults and 6 children, were arrested. Cars were also left vandalized near East Washington Street in the Windy City, including a Tesla, which was worth about $120,000. kind of Tesla was worth 120 grand? I thought there was like 60 grand. Oh, we've got some video here. Some pictures. Let's watch as the teen scatter as gunshots ring out during a fight in Chicago. Come on, you. Oh, wait, no, I archived this. Never mind, we're not going to watch that. Ah. Real professional here, yo. The huge gatherings in the street are being dubbed teen trends, which extends invites to teenagers across the city. According to NBC Chicago, and Saturday's incident occurred a day after another teenage boy was shot at another gathering near 31st Avenue Beach. During the chaos on Saturday night, a bystander was attacked while in the driver's seat of his car. It appeared as if police were unable to handle the crowd. Okay. You have hundreds of people descending and causing violence and chaos in Chicago. Of course, police are going to be unable to respond to that. Officers worked to clear the large crowds, and video showed dozens of cops lining the street near Washington and State. It's heartbreaking. Kids fighting, chasing each other, and some of them got guns, an unidentified witness told NBC News. It's really heartbreaking when one of them actually gets hurt, and that's unfortunate. It happened last night. Like, why is that not playing? Oh, yeah. That's right, because this is archived now, because Daily Mail has joined the slew of people who say, please turn off your ad blocker. More on the Brandon Johnson statement here. Chicago's mayor-elect warns against demonizing rampaging teens after unrest. From Snezhana Faberov? Chicago mayor-elect Brandon Johnson responded to this weekend's violent teen takeover of the Windy City's downtown area by urging the public not to demonize the hordes of rampaging young people who set cars on fire, clashed with cops, and damaged private property. Johnson, a progressive Democrat and former teachers union organizer, who was selected mayor earlier this month, released a statement Sunday reacting to the disorder in his city that resulted in a shooting and more than a dozen arrests. To reiterate his statement from the earlier article, in no way do I condone the destructive activity we saw in the Loop and Lakefront this weekend. It is unacceptable and has no place in our city, Johnson stated. However, it is not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities. He continued, our cities must work together to create spaces for youth to gather safely and responsibly under adult guidance and supervision, to ensure that every part of our city remains welcome for both residents and visitors. Dude, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the lack of parental supervision in just a couple articles when we read from the Daily Wire, but a part of the problem that we have here is the fact that yes, they can go gather in these places, but let's be completely realistic about what we have here. A lot of these people are in a home where the parent is either working or doesn't care, is using the kids for a tax write-off. Johnson, 47, added that it's his goal as mayor to improve public safety and make Chicago livable for everybody. Good luck with that. 2 nights of unrest, which were organized on social media, saw packs of out-of-control teens clash with cops, brawl with one another, vandalize property, and break into and set cars on fire. One video even showed several youngsters jump and dance atop a city bus. Chicago's so screwed, wrote Colin Rugg, co-owner of the right-wing news outlet Trending Politics. And it is. And again, the problem with this, it's not the fact that you don't have the spaces for teens to go. You do have the spaces for that. You have malls, there are parks, and there's a lot of adult supervision in those places. The fact of the matter is number one, if there had been any... Lori Lightfoot was actually right. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Lori Lightfoot. I'm more appalled by the fact that she actually said that, given the position in her political party that she's in. But she's right. I mean, the discipline starts at home. And a lot of these kids don't have the discipline at home. Period. Incredible statement to those who saw the videos of violence and destruction. Don't demonize youth for a little pop-up riot. It's actually your fault they did this. Yeah, there you go. Tweeted Cernovich, a conservative conspiracy theorist. Yeah, they had to put that part in there too. So many people saying the New York Post is a right-wing rag that kneels to right-wingers. No, they put that shit in there too. Other critics warn that Johnson's reaction to the unrest a month before his inauguration does not bode well for Chicago's future. Chicago is about to fall to Detroit and Baltimore levels of ruin, one user wrote, while another predicted Chicago will see more of this. With Brandon Johnson as mayor, the exodus of businesses, residents, and visitors from downtown is only going to get worse. Lawlessness is becoming rampant. This is the part that blows my mind. I gotta see what conversations are being had in the DNC right now. Because they have kind of locked themselves into a no-win situation. I don't know if they have enough security on deck anywhere to go back and do something about this. To keep their people safe while they're there. I don't know if they're going to be bringing in National Guard. They do have the advantage, by the way, of being on the in party, obviously. Which means they can mobilize military assets for things. They can have Biden... Come here, Uncle Joe. No, just sign this paper. No, don't read it. Just sign this paper here. Good boy. Here's your bran muffin. But if they pull out now, they're admitting that there is a problem that needs to be solved in downtown Chicago. And if they don't pull out now, they run the risk of every visitor, because, again, this is the nice part of Chicago. This is the part the DNC is going to actually be in. They carefully pre-selected a place that's outside of the blighted, crime-ridden neighborhoods, to the nice touristy spots, and yet we're sitting here on the edge of the nice touristy spots. The Art Institute, Millennium Park, the New East Side, Grant Park. This is the nice part, the Shedd Aquarium. This is the nice part of Chicago. Even going down to Soldier Field, that's where you're starting to get a little bit out of the nice part, but yeah, this is the part where they're going to be having this whole thing. And I gotta question now what their plan is. An Illinois state senator also got in on the mix. Illinois state senator to defend Chicago teens rioting and looting. It's a mass protest. Fiery but mostly peaceful. From Aubrey Spady. An Illinois state senator defended the Chicago teen takeover that unfolded Saturday night and left multiple boys shot, claiming it was simply a mass protest against poverty and segregation. That could actually make sense. Now, I am positive that everything that was done on social media has already been scrubbed. I didn't even think to try to look for it. But I don't know what the details of what they were bringing forward were when they were organizing this thing. So my first question obviously is going to be, were they actually advertising that they were protesting against poverty and segregation? Or is that something you're adding as an afterthought right here to try to make this back into a progressive good thing? Robert Peters, who represents part of Chicago, responded to the chaotic scene that saw hundreds of local Utes, smashing car windows, jumping on surrounding vehicles, and firing guns in the streets. Rather than condemn the chaos that left tourists running in fear, Peter suggested it was a mass protest. Since I'm a glutton for punishment, and I'm sure I'm going to get the most unhinged crime weirdo replies, but I would look at the behavior of the young people, the Utes, as a political act and statement, Peters wrote in a Twitter post on Sunday. It's a mass protest against poverty and segregation. Rest in peace to my mentions. Hundreds of police officers were called to the scene, arresting 9 adults and 6 juveniles. Now I'm actually curious as to what the social media posting was. I'm probably going to look into some of that after the show here tonight. But now you've caught my attention. Now I'm curious. Is this actually just a major mass protest, or is this something else and something bigger? I want to read from the Daily Wire. This is an op-ed piece from the Daily Wire, but this actually goes on with what Lightfoot said, which again comes to the point of what universe is this in? What universe are we in where I'm agreeing with Lori Lightfoot? Because I don't do that very much, if at all. Chaos rules in Chicago. The lack of 2-parent homes is to blame, from Tim Meads over the Daily Wire. Mayhem has hit the streets of Chicago yet again after more than 100 teenagers rioted this past weekend throughout the Windy City. In a city where a large number of children, particularly minorities, are born out of wedlock, that disorder is no surprise. The opinions that are stated in this article are the opinions of Tim Meads and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Daily Wire. J. Edgar, Contemporary, or TurnSomePagesProductions.com. As video evidence shows, the young Chicagoans jumped on cars and buses, set fires, and engaged in otherwise unruly conduct. Over the past few days, the police, by their own admission, were simply too overwhelmed to stop the chaos. Here's what some of that looked like.
Don't run, come over here. They chasing me up in there. Now we got a person shot.
Are you on Citizen or no?
I am.
Look at.
Some more. Cell phone video shows group jumping on a vehicle along Michigan Avenue. In reaction to it all, one Chicago woman asked, "Where are the parents at?" The better question is, where is the father? Since 1980, more than 70% of black children have been born to unmarried mothers. In Chicago, meanwhile, 56.7% of Latino children in Chicago were born out of wedlock. A remarkably high number in its own right. Yeah, for that culture, absolutely is, by the way. In a heavily Catholic culture, that is a really high number. Meanwhile, just 12.5% of white children in the Windy City are born to single mothers, and even fewer Asians were born in that situation. Perhaps it's no surprise that Asians are the most likely demographic to do better in school and graduate high school. There's more than just that. I'm sure that plays a role into it. Whites follow, then Latinos and Black Chicagoans are least likely to graduate high school. In Chicago in 2021, Black Americans accounted for roughly 73% of all arrests. Hispanics made up 19% in the category, white individuals accounted for 8% of total arrests, and Asian Pacific Islanders comprised just 1% of arrests, according to police data. Those are the kind of numbers that'll get you kicked off of YouTube. Follow the Rumble channel. Again, those numbers, like high school graduation rates, are inversely proportionate to the rate of out-of-wedlock births per each racial group. The data also show that children in black households with two-parent are more likely to graduate high school, have a better quality of life, and avoid breaking the law. That's because a mother and father provide emotional support and stability needed for children to have a solid start in life. Without that foundation, they're starting at a disadvantage. This has been true in every culture and country to ever exist. In modern U.S., that fact is no different in rural areas, according to the data. As of 2018, whites accounted for 78.2% of the rural population, compared to 57.3% of urban areas. In such places, among whites, 33% of births in rural areas are to unmarried women, compared with 20% in urban areas and 26% in the suburbs. Children are more likely to have what the Centers for Disease Control and Protection call adverse childhood experiences, including, but are not limited to, violence in the home or community, abuse and neglect, or having a family member attempt to commit suicide. Growing up and seeing the difference between married households and single-parent households, I actually can see that trend as well, even in a complete lily-white small-town neighborhood. I can see that trend. Across children of all ages, more living in rural areas. 45% for children births to 5 experience at least one ACE compared to children in the other two geographic areas. According to one study, it's not a peaceful existence for those innocent little ones, and just like minorities in Chicago, that degeneration spreads the longer it occurs. AC exposure is linked to risky health behaviors and chronic health conditions in adulthood, according to the CDC, and may also result in an intergenerational cycle of experiences. While the form of tragedies may present in different forms, more likely drug overdoses and domestic abuse rather than riots and smash and grabs, the trend of dysfunction is comparable to the inner cities. As J.D. Vance, who grew up around such a community, explained, chaos begets chaos, instability begets instability. Welcome to family life for the American hillbilly. The same can be said for American city dwellers for at least the past 50 years. One should consider that in '69, Elvis Presley released In the Ghetto, portraying a single mother raising a boy in Chicago who turns into a criminal. The absence of a father is heavily felt throughout. At the end of the song, a single mother births a new baby boy, and the pattern continues, resulting in more violence. Chicago Democrat Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson's solution to the problem is bigger government, and one that taxes corporations more in order to increase. Of course, in '64, LBJ launched the War on Poverty using a similar framework. In '70, just 11% of all households in Chicago were headed by single parents. That number has increased by roughly 200% since that time. So, and there's a lot of that. And like Brandon Johnson and LBJ both, in their own frameworks and their own time periods, both of their answers are the same. It's to make the government daddy. Make the government the father, and make the government the primary issuer of punishment. And it doesn't work. I'm very glad that I was able to grow up in a two-parent household. It was touch and go there for a little while, but I'm very glad that I did. Interesting point, Grant. Very interesting point. But we're going to move out of Chicago, and we're going to go look at New York. From Fox 5, gay couple attacked in Times Square says they were targeted. I doubt that. From Stephanie Bertini. It was less than a week ago in Times Square when a gay couple said they were attacked by strangers. Fox News agreed to conceal their identities because they fear retaliation. They say on Saturday, April the 8th, just before 10:30 p.m., they were walking leisurely when strangers zeroed in on them. "You need to move," one man described how it started and how it escalated. "They were pushing us," he said. They said the strangers used profanity and commented on their sexual orientation while they were beating us, one man said. Oh, did they? Are you sure? They were both injured and sent to Mount Sinai. Now they're recovering. One of them had to have surgery after his jaw was fractured, he told Fox 5. The NYPD confirms the assault happened and an investigation is ongoing. It's not going to go anywhere, but they've confirmed it. In a statement to Fox News, an NYPD spokesman said the subject fled this location to parts unknown. The victims were transported to Mount Sinai in stable condition. There are no arrests and the investigation remains ongoing. We asked the NYPD if this will be investigated as a hate crime, and we were told that it will be determined as the investigation progresses. You know what I think happened? I think somebody saw a couple of well-dressed people in Times Square and said, "I want their wallets." And I'm sure, when you're shouting anything in an intense situation, all kinds of things come out. I don't think they were targeted. I think this was a simple mugging, robbery. And I'm sure they lost their wallets and cell phones. I hate to say it, but if you gotta know who your attacker is and have a perp description before you can come out and say that this was targeted. From ABC News, Pennsylvania University shooting wounds 2 women. Coming to ABC via the Associated Press. 2 women were wounded by a gunshot during a spring event at a university in southeastern Pennsylvania over the weekend, authorities said. Lincoln University security officials said the shooting happened about 10 p.m. Saturday during Yard Fest, an annual spring event at the Chester County campus near Oxford that prosecutors said was attended by several thousand people. University officials said that neither the victim was a Lincoln student. County prosecutors said one woman was sitting on a bench seat in a second-floor hallway of a university building, and the other one was standing nearby in the hallway, which was crowded with hundreds of people. Both heard a single gunshot, and then the crowd began running. The victim, who was standing, recalled feeling pain in her thigh, saw she had been shot, and brushed a copper jacket from the bullet off her leg. The seated victim had a gunshot wound to her left ankle, and doctors believe the round was still lodged in there. Police believe a single round passed through the first woman's thigh and hit the seated victim. The women were taken to Christiana Hospital. One was treated and released, and the other was expected to be released shortly, prosecutors said. Neither victim saw who fired the weapon, and the identity of the suspect remains unknown. Prosecutors at Mark R. Party, the head of campus security, said earlier that 2 individuals with white t-shirts were being sought. Boy, I bet you that narrows it down. Thousands of people were terrified during this unexpected shooting, and it's very fortunate that there were no fatalities, DA Deb Ryan said in a statement, asking anyone with information about the shooting to call investigators. Again, this one I actually think might have been a targeted shot, but I'd be almost willing to bet that the person missed. And these 2 poor women happen to be in the line because, what's the third rule of firearm safety? Know your target and what's beyond it. And I'm sure that this person, if he was only pointing his gun at something that he intended to destroy, was not knowing his target and what was beyond it. Another one out of Pennsylvania. Man struck 9 times as double shooting erupts overnight in Kensington. From Fox 29 staff. By the way, I'm almost positive I know what the Democrats are going to run on this year. Again. A man and a woman are recovering after they were struck by gunfire in Kensington early Sunday morning. Police say the double shooting happened near North Hancock and West Cumberland Streets just before 2:30 a.m. 2 victims were transported to the local hospital, a 29-year-old woman with 1 non-life-threatening gunshot wound, and a man shot 9 times throughout his body. He is listed as in critical. Is his name 50 Cent? Oh, is it? That I didn't know. And there aren't really any details on the victims either. That's interesting, Grant. Isn't it? No, 50 Cent was shot 5 times. It's unclear what led to the shooting, and, surprise again, no arrests have been made. See, we keep getting these no arrest situations where somebody just randomly goes in and fires a gun, and then it makes a headline, and then they say, "Oh, big shooting, it's the guns problem. What are we gonna do?" Even Vice President Harris can't get away from this at this point. Roads near Naval Observatory closed after single shot fired overnight. From Fox 5 Digital Team, this is Fox 5 out of DC. Roads near the Naval Observatory in northwest DC are closed for an investigation after reports of a single gunshot early Monday morning. Secret Service responded at 1:30 a.m. to reports of a single gunshot at 34th and Mass. Should we get the DC map up? That's close to the Norway Embassy. I didn't know that. Looks like this is actually the this appears to be the major embassy area. Nepal, Azerbaijan, Finland, and the Naval Observatory, obviously. Officials said there were no injuries and no indication the incident was directed towards the Naval Observatory, which is the home of Vice President Harris. So, not a lot of news there, but yeah, even Kamala can't get away from this stuff. Let's talk about something other than shootings for a little while. Victoriana tweeting out with a video of report we'll watch in just a moment. Horsehead, New York. 18 people arrested in connection with child sex trafficking. The same child that's under 13 for 7 years. So this tells you what age she was when they used and threatened her life with a rifle since she was a little child. She was taken to numerous locations. Dear God, please completely erase this little girl's memory of this entire horrific crime. Unfortunately, going on for 7 years, probably not going to happen. What does this sound like? Alright, let's listen to what the news report has to say.
Biggest busts of accused sex traffickers, and now 18 people are jailed and charged with sex trafficking and rape involving a child. Good evening, I'm Jackie Gillis. Thank you for joining us for 18 News at 6. Of those 18, several are from Elmira, Bath, and Corning. It's an investigation that took months. Our 18 News reporter Nick Dabina is here in the studio with specifics about the charges and the names of some of those arrested.
Jackie, a grand jury indicted 9 men and 9 women. Now, this comes after a months-long investigation by New York State Police based in Horseheads. 8 of the suspects are from Elmira, the rest also from our area. One of the suspects was living in Florida. Police say all 18 sexually abused the same minor for several years.
In October of last year, the New York State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigations says it received information that a female child was being sexually abused. That's when police say they started looking into 49-year-old Andrew Doherty from Dundee. The indictment accuses Doherty of raping a girl who was under 13 years old while threatening her with a rifle. Over several months, police say their investigation led to the arrest of Doherty and 17 others. They were charged with raping and abusing the same child over the course of 7 years. The Yates County District Attorney's Office says the victim was, quote, removed from an extremely unsafe environment. Police say the crimes happened at different locations across Yates County and the Southern Tier. Doherty is charged with multiple felonies, including predatory sexual assault, sex trafficking of a child, and compelling prostitution. 8 other men are facing charges, including rape and sexual abuse. 9 women are facing charges, including predatory sexual assault and criminal sexual acts. In a statement to 18 News, the Yates County District Attorney's Office said, quote, due to the age of the victim, the nature of the crimes, and the pending status of numerous court proceedings, no further information will be released at this time.
5 of the suspects already pled guilty to multiple charges. They face sentences ranging from 2 to 6 years in prison, plus 10 years of parole. Jackie.
That's it? That's it? Are you... This makes me want to die. 2 to 6 years, that's it? God grant me the wisdom to change the things that I can change in this world, the strength to deal with the things that I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. 6 years. Fuck you. Although I am thinking that once it gets out what they're in for, some of these people will be facing a life sentence. It's just going to be a very, very short life sentence. 6 years. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off with that shit. Holy crap. Well, let's read a little bit more of this from David Sorensen, 18 arrested in sex crimes against a minor child. The Yates County DA reports that 18 people have been indicted for sex trafficking charges from an investigation that started in Horseheads in October of 2022. According to Yates County District Attorney, the New York State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigations, Horseheads initiated an investigation on October 13, 2022 into Andrew Doherty of Starkey, New York. The investigation spanned several months and included assistance from members of the BCI across NYSP troops. AC&E, 18 people were arrested and charged with various sex offenses alleged to have been committed against a minor child. The same minor child. The New York State Police, in conjunction hold on a second. My tax lady. Let's see. The New York State Police, in conjunction with the Holly Hills Police Department of Florida, the Yates County District Attorney's Office, the Yates County Department of Social Services, and the New York State Police Computer Crimes Unit, were able to conclude this month's long investigation successfully. As a result of this investigation, the victim was removed from an extremely unsafe environment. DA Todd Casella presented the case to Yates County Grand Jury on March 16, 2023, resulting in indictments being filed against the names that we heard in the video. Andrew Doherty was indicted for predatory sexual assault against a child, A2 felony. Predatory sexual assault, A2 felony. Sex trafficking of a child, B felony. Compelling prostitution, B felony. Criminal possession of a weapon, 3rd degree, D felony. Promoting a sexual performance by a child, D felony. Why are these such low-level felonies? And use of a child in a sexual performance. Why are these not all A2? Micheline Ridley was indicted for predatory sexual assault against a child and tampering with physical evidence. E felony. And they're still saying only 2 to 6 years. Look at all this. This is... And it's men and women, too. That's the worst part of it. I don't want to live on this planet anymore, you guys. This makes me sad. God grant me the wisdom to change the things that I know I can change. The strength to accept the things I cannot. I'm sorry, I can't accept this. This is horrifying. We gotta keep going, though. Another one coming out of Memphis this time. Shannon Watts reporting, the Memphis Police Department is introducing a unit that will arrest unaccompanied minors that sell food, play loud music, are inappropriately dressed, or dancing in the street. This is a recipe for more incarcerations and police killings of black teens. Now, of course, this is in every town in Mama's Demand, so she's looking at this as those poor innocent little kids. They're just going to get arrested for walking around with their pants down. Oh my God! Well, let's read what's actually going on with this. I missed one. Got everything screwed up again. I'm a professional here, I promise. New police unit to combat juvenile crimes in downtown Memphis. From Fox 13 Memphis staff. In response to rising juvenile crimes in the city's downtown area, the Memphis Police Department on Friday announced the creation of a new specialized unit. In a video released Friday detailing the juvenile crime abatement program, the MPD officials urge parents not to let their children go to downtown Memphis without adult supervision. Excuse me. The department said the program is a response to calls about illegal activities by juveniles in and around Beale Street. MPD officials said they will monitor curfew violations and hold parents accountable for their child's actions. In the video, Don Crow, MPD's assistant chief of police, explained what would happen if a child is suspected of an illegal activity. The individual will be detained, Crow said, and if necessary, they'll be transported to juvenile court, or juvenile summons will be issued. If the juvenile is not transported, the officers will notify the offender's parents or legal guardian, who will be required to pick up their child. If the adults don't show, MPD officials said the child will be taken to the state's Department of Children's Services. So, I have some problems with this. Number one, this is a lot of pre-crime, which I was the understanding we don't prosecute for pre-crime in this country, but you know, that's the world that our progressive friends want to go with, so. But on the other end of this, now, I can understand why, especially if there's an area where there is high crime, where they would want to station more officers to be there and to be able to respond when crime does happen. Unfortunately, this sounds like this was a rough draft, and now Memphis is trying to backpedal on this. From Commercial Appeal, a division of USA Today, MPD program that will target juvenile crime presentation targeting clothing was a rough draft. From Lucas Fenton. Now, it was, you got backlash, and now you're trying to walk it back. The story has been updated to reflect comments Friday night from the Memphis Police Department. The MPD is introducing a program that will attempt to curb crimes committed by children in downtown Memphis, the department said in a video Friday evening. The effort, called the Juvenile Crime Abatement Program, is described as a reflex to an influx of juveniles gathering on weekends in the downtown entertainment district. The video cites that a vast majority of deaths in downtown Memphis can be attributed to minors. A PowerPoint obtained by the Commercial Appeal Friday afternoon, which MPD officials said Friday night was a rough draft of the program that was not approved, detailed instructions to monitor juveniles and young adult pedestrians for illegal activities, such as selling candy and food. That's not an illegal activity. Oh, without a license. Playing loud music, being inappropriately dressed, or dancing in the street in downtown Memphis. The PowerPoint presentation was independently verified by the Commercial Appeal, and an inspection of the file's property menu showed the file was last saved in its rough draft format by a high-ranking member of the MPD on April 12, 2023. To combat this problem, North Main Station has created a juvenile abatement team to address the juvenile truancy, curfew violations, and other criminal activities committed in the downtown area. The presentation read, officers will professionally encounter any person that appears to be a juvenile who's not accompanied by a parent or legal guardian. In the presentation, the team is listed as being comprised of 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 8 officers through a chart next to the breakdown naming each officer, sergeant, and lieutenant assigned to the unit. Only names 1 sergeant. 1 member of the team is also slated to be a plainclothes officer stationed on the roof of an auto zone on Front Street who will identify criminal behavior. I don't know. I think they got backlash to this for something that I think that there's a good idea to have a presence there, but to go back out there and just target people for selling candy and wearing their pants around their ankles, I think is a step too far. But I think that they are trying to backpedal something that they were originally going to go back and do. I got an article about the trash taking itself out. This is fun. From Fox News, former Planned Parenthood staffer commits suicide after police raid child pornography charges. From Anders Hagstrom. A 36-year-old former Planned Parenthood employee took his own life last week, police said, just 5 days after authorities raided his home in connection with a child porn investigation. Tim Yergo had previously worked as a strategic communications director for Planned Parenthood's Southern New England branch. While police have not specifically named Yergo as the suspect in their child pornography investigation, local media has confirmed that he was the intended target of a botched police raid on April 6th. The person who died was definitely a suspect in the child porn investigation, said the person who committed suicide. New Haven Police Chief Carl Jacobson told the New Haven Register. The New Haven Police Special Victims Unit conducted a raid on what it thought was Yergo's residence 5 years prior to Yergo's Tuesday suicide, but instead broke down the door of his upstairs neighbor, Stacy Wesenter. Police handcuffed Wesenter and questioned her about Yergo's whereabouts before seeing her young son's toys around the apartment and realizing their mistake. Unfortunately, a mistake was made, Jacobson told the registrar of the incident. We feel for the woman and we're going to do everything we can to make it right. Yergo left Planned Parenthood to become the communications director at Long Wharf Theater on August of 2022. Police have yet to release the details of the warrant and charges against Yergo, saying there's still 2 open investigations related to the matter. Police have also declined to reveal what was found inside Yergo's apartment once they searched it. Police have also opened an inquiry into how Yergo committed suicide following the raid. Murder? Maybe? So, I do have a lot of questions about this. Number one, my biggest question is, what is he being charged with? That's my biggest question. Obviously, it's related to child pornography. But now, number one, what does he know about it? What does Wesinger know about it now? And did she call him and make an accusation, possibly about her young son? Because remember, there was a young boy in the apartment. Well, at least the toys of a young boy in the apartment of the person that they searched. Under normal circumstances, I would look at this and say, this is the trash taking itself out, because somebody who would do something like this, Planned Parenthood aside, belongs in the wood chipper. But there is something about this story that's just off to me. There's something that's not quite right about this. I don't know what it is. Just something about this doesn't feel right to me. You know? But I'm sure that something will come up on this one. Let's move on to Florida. From the New York Post. 2 protesters storm stage during DeSantis speech in New Hampshire, hold up Jews Against DeSantis sign. From Patrick Riley. 2 protesters stormed the stage while Ron DeSantis was delivering a speech in New Hampshire on Friday night, but the Florida governor seemed unbothered by the interruption. The 2 women hopped on the stage at the New Hampshire Republican Party annual Amos Tuck dinner at the Doubletree Hilton in Manchester, while the likely 2024 presidential candidate gave remarks during his first visit to the state. The women attempted to unravel a sign while standing behind DeSantis. Video of the incident shows. Let's watch that video of the incident. This is If Not Now, which is, I believe, the organization that perpetrated this. If Not Now members are confronting Ron DeSantis at a GOP fundraiser in New Hampshire this evening. We're making it clear that DeSantis is an anti-Semite whose actions and policies both support Israeli apartheid and put Jews in danger. Now, meanwhile, they probably have nothing to say about Ilhan Omar, who is open about Israeli apartheid. But this is all political. And by the way, when DeSantis was in Congress, he was one of the key figures who helped to get the U.S. Embassy moved to Jerusalem. But let's watch.
Well, 14, 16, 18, yeah, thank you. You gotta have a little spice in the speech, right? I mean, you gotta have a little fun. Why you 12, 14, 16, 18?
Now, there are people that are saying this was staged. I don't know if it was or not, but I knew, again, this looks a little bit weird. Megs on Twitter. Tell me you staged a protest without telling me you staged a protest.
12, 14, 16, 18, yeah, thank you. You gotta have a little spice in the speech, right? I mean, you gotta have a little fun.
I've accused Ron DeSantis of a lot of things. I don't think he staged this one. Because I think that if this was staged, the security team detail would have been a lot closer. Because, I mean,
18, yeah.
you could see dude just bolting across. DeSantis took the disruption in stride. You gotta have a little spice in the speech, right? Why would you want to pay for the ticket just to get in to do that? I don't know, but different strokes for different folks, he joked. DeSantis, who has yet to officially launch his campaign for the White House, has been ramping up travel out of state. He visited Long Island earlier this month and is scheduled to travel to South Carolina next week, according to NECN. The Florida governor is viewed as the most formidable opponent against President Trump for the GOP nomination, but he's still polling behind Trump nationally despite the ex-president's 34-count indictment in New York for falsifying business records. Look, again, there's a lot you can go after DeSantis about. You don't have to make up anti-Semitism and white supremacy for him. You can do what I do and call him Governor Executive Order. It's just like when they talk about the racism and the misogyny, and he hates women and he wants to enslave women about Donald Trump. You don't have to make up stupid shit about Trump. There is plenty of stuff to attack Trump over. The spending spree, the controversy about his statements, the misspeaking, the fact that he eggs on a lot of these protests. There's a lot to that. There is a ton of stuff you can attack Trump over. You don't have to make shit up. So I want to go over this one again. We looked at a 19-second clip of this last Friday when we were talking. So I do want to take some time and first listen to the clip again and then read. I did find some articles about this. So let's listen first to what Tucker has to say, then we'll read actually a little bit into this.
So this is not a regional conflict in Eastern Europe. This is a hot war between the two primary nuclear superpowers on Earth. And yet this war has never been formally declared. It has not been authorized by Congress. And for that reason, this war is a violation of American law. It is a crime. So this is not a regional...
So that's what we looked at on Friday. I've got Tucker's article himself, op-ed, of course, by Tucker Carlson, and then I've got the pushback from that as well from Insider, the rebuttal, if you will. From Fox News, telling the truth is the only real sin in Washington. From Tucker Carlson, the opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of Tucker Carlson and not necessarily the opinions of Fox News, Contemporary, J. Edgar, or Turn Some Pages Productions. For the past 14 months, you've heard two main things about the war in Ukraine. The first is that the war in Ukraine is a war of national sovereignty. It is not a proxy war between superpowers. Russia invaded Ukraine. That was immoral. The United States supports Ukraine because the United States supports democracy. But the US itself is not at war with Russia. This is Ukraine's war to fight. The second thing we've heard over and over again is that Ukraine is winning that war. Ukrainian troops are brave and noble. Russian troops are evil and incompetent. The Ukrainians are beating the Russians in the end. Their victory is inevitable. Now you're very familiar with these points because you've heard them every day since last February. You've heard them repeated by every power center in the United States. The Pentagon, the White House, the leaders of both parties in Congress. CEOs and celebrities, and most insistently of all, you've heard them from virtually every single outlet along the entire spectrum of our national news media. These are the two essential themes of the war in Ukraine. Both of them are lies. We know that they're lies because late last week, leaked intelligence about the war in Ukraine began to appear on social media. Briefing slides prepared by the US government begin to show up, among other places, on Twitter. And the slides show that this is, in fact, not Ukraine's war, it's our war. The United States is in direct combatant in a war against Russia. As we speak, American soldiers are fighting Russian soldiers. So this is not a regional conflict in Eastern Europe. This is a hot war between the two primary nuclear superpowers on Earth. And yet this war has never been formally declared. Man, it's exhausting doing Tucker voice. I don't know how he does that like that on TV every night. And the rebuttal from Insider. Tucker Carlson shared made-up casualty figures from leaked intelligence to argue Ukraine is losing the war. From Natalie Musumeci. Fox News host Tucker Carlson on Thursday rattled off seemingly made-up casualty figures from leaked intelligence to argue that Ukraine is losing the war with Russia. But the actual leaked classified US documents show that more than twice as many Russian soldiers as Ukrainian troops have been killed. During his Tucker Carlson Tonight broadcast, the Fox News star said the leaked documents show Ukraine is in fact losing the war. They are still. Even if you are at 2-to-1 casualties, they still are because the incursions are going further into their territory. 7 Ukrainians are being killed for every Russian, Carlson claimed without citing his direct source. A recently leaked U.S. intelligence document paints a very different picture of the casualties in the war. The document suggests that Russia suffered between 189,500 and 223,000 casualties, with up to 43,000 troops killed in action, while Ukraine has suffered between 124,500 and 131,000 casualties, with up to 17,500 soldiers killed in action. The leaked document is subsequently altered and shared around Russian Telegram accounts to falsely show the reverse. That Russia has suffered fewer casualties, but even those fake numbers were still lower casualty rates than what Carlson referenced. A rep for Fox News did not immediately respond to a request for comment by Insider on Friday. Well, I've seen the documents and they show a very different picture than what Insider is trying to say, but again, this is the media being in full scramble mode. We're running up on the clock here. We're going to go a little bit late yet tonight, though. So if you guys want to get some last-minute chats in, especially on Rumble, there's 6 people watching and no chat is popping in here. But we're going to go over the live chat at the very end of the show here, so... terrified and angry, LGBTQIRIMIGXTBYOTUMROAXTIA, sometimes Y. Texans and allies rally at Capitol to protest bills targeting queer community. The Texas Tribune's William Melhado reports. Chants to protect trans kids echoed across the Capitol as hundreds of LGBTQIRIMIGXTBYOUTAMI, sometimes Y Texans, and their supporters gathered Saturday afternoon to express anger and fear over a slate of rapidly moving bills targeting queer people. The mid-April heat matched the anger felt by many towards Republican lawmakers who seek to ban transgender students from playing college sports, queer youth from accessing transition-related health care, and other efforts to restrict the LGBTQIRIMIGXT, you get the point, rights. Welcome to the resistance, said Ricardo Martinez, CEO of Equality Texas, an LGBTQIAI, you get the point, advocacy group that organized the march, as he implored protesters to do everything in their power to stop the legislation in the final 6 weeks of the legislative session. After gathering several blocks north of the Capitol, chanting protesters marched amid drag queens and rainbow flags before rallying on the South Steps to hear fiery speeches and offer consolation. Fiery but mostly peaceful, in fact. Right now, everyone's upset, frustrated, speechless, said Natalie Kennedy, an Austin resident who showed up Saturday to support the queer community. The Texas Senate has already passed all of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's priority bills, focused on the Alphabet Alliance people, including legislation that would restrict schools' roles in discussing the existence of Alphabet Mafia people, blocking transgender kids' access to gender-affirming care, that major medical groups support, ban trans athletes from joining sports teams that align with their gender identity, and defund public libraries that let drag queens read to children. The House, which has historically served as an obstacle to legislation that would curb the rights of the Alphabet Mafia Texans, has also showed signs of moving quickly on some of these bills. Why kids? I mean, I do know why kids. I actually know the answer to that question. It's because when they tried to introduce the transgender agenda into everything, most of the MAGA Republicans looked up and said, okay, have fun. Chop your cock off. Nobody cares. And it's the latest part in outrage. The thing with this is always they're looking for something to splash on social media. And they're hoping if they gather into somewhere, some crazy right-wing Texan will come in and start shooting or something. In addition, they're also looking at sterilizing large swaths of mentally ill people. Which, I mean, there was some other nationalistic socialist group that did that too. I don't know what it was. Somebody remind me. Do we want to keep going? I do want to jump off for a little bit and make sure that if the Porch Boys go, because I think that they might. That they've got some time to do it too. Let's grab this back-to-back from Daily Wire. And we'll look at the clock again. Pentagon says defense officials cracking down on access after leak. From Daniel Chaitlin. The DoD is working to cut down the number of people who have access to secret information, a Pentagon official said Monday following a leak of classified documents. You know what would be better? Don't have so many goddamn classified documents. Officials are culling through distribution lists as well as examining other issues, such as printing access, as part of long-term review. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh told reporters during a briefing. Singh said she could not provide exact numbers on who has had access revoked, but did concede that actions have already been taken in a bid to restrict the flow of sensitive information. We have to make sure the service members or our civilians have what they need to be able to do their jobs, but we need to make sure that it is on a need-to-know basis, she added. I know somebody who has top secret clearance. And he's not in the military, actually. Not naming names, and I'm actually probably, as soon as we're off air here, I'm going to go ask him if he still has his top secret clearance. I think he might, based on what he does for a living. But I'm going to ask him outright if he still does, because I would be willing to bet that his job would be one of them that got hit by this. Let's see. We have to make sure the service members, let's see, the DoD said an interagency review is underway to assess the validity and national security impact of images that began popping up in recent months on social media, starting with Discord, showing what appeared to be secret details about China, Russia's war in Ukraine, surveillance efforts, and more. In addition, the Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation into the matter following a referral from the DoD. So, again, I mean, we'll see if something changes and there's a reason that they need to start dropping people's access to it, but the big one for me is the fact that we do need to not have so much shit that's classified. That'll be a big step in cracking down on this. And even old Uncle Sniffendiddle weighing in on this one. Biden announced new action in protecting classified material following leak on Discord. From Ryan Saavedra. Look here, Fat! They tell me that what happened with this leak is causing Discord. Sir, the program is called Discord. What program? Am I going to be watching that on TV after the Howdy Doody show? President Biden announced Friday that he has ordered that access to classified materials be further restricted after a 21-year-old member of the Mass Air National Guard allegedly leaked hundreds of photos of classified U.S. military intelligence to an online server. I commend the rapid action taken by law enforcement to investigate and respond to the recent dissemination of classified U.S. government documents, Biden said in a statement. Well, while we're still determining the validity of these documents, I've directed our military and intelligence community to take steps to further secure and limit distribution of sensitive information, and our national security team is closely coordinating with our partners and allies, man. Come on. Since late last week, the FBI has aggressively pursued investigative leads, and today's arrest exemplifies our continued commitment to identifying, pursuing, and holding accountable those who betray our country's trust and put our national security at risk, the FBI said in a statement. Teixeira was reportedly responsible for military communications networks as an IT specialist, according to Axios, which allowed him to obtain higher-level security clearance. So he has no idea what these steps are, but he is announcing that they're there. I think I'll save the rest of this for tomorrow. We'll go see if we can't find our friends the Porch Boys already in progress. Doesn't show them online or having an announcement for it. I just checked my Discord. That could be bad in and of itself. Oh no! It's Discord! There might be secret documents there! Alright, but let's have a look and see what's going on. So, the numbers jumped around on Rumble, but only Grant7942 left a message over on Rumble and asking if the chat works on Rumble, which unfortunately I can't marry that to the main program, so that's why I kept Rumble up in the background over here and kind of watched the numbers going up and down as we went. So we've got that going on. Thanks everybody who did check me out over on Rumble, by the way. New experiment, and we'll see if we can't get more people in here. I stream at 6 p.m. every weekday night, so we'll see if we can get some more people in here, have some more fun over here. And I do see that, some of the stuff gets done on replay too, by the way. On the Instagram side, we had Sabrina Nicole Love joined in, but no comment there. And over on the main channels here, Grant was our big chatter. I think Grant was our only chatter tonight here. Grant, of course, what's the point if the stuff that can get you in trouble doesn't show up on the screen? Well, I'm actually a good sport about that, honestly. I don't have a lot of restrictions in my chat, and there's not a lot that people can get banned in my chat for either, by the way. Like, the rules on the Discord are pretty much the rules here. The only thing that'll really get you banned is if you dox. Everything else is in good-natured fun. And I mean, when we did the morning show, we had a lot of friends from the left come in here and try to argue and scream and complain about a lot of things over on the Twitch side, and they were welcomed with open arms, and a couple times they got banned for being obnoxious, but I typically overturn the ban always. Because I really only want a situation where, again, people get banned only for doxing and nothing else. So Grant says new jobs like Chief Diversity Officer. No, those are going away. Don't worry, Biden's going to require you to hire them as a political officer. Just like 1984. Which I think I'm going to read right after I finish up with Starship Troopers. I did finish that long book, by the way. I did a book review on it the other night. Chicago says Chicago gets what it deserves. Fire, but mostly peaceful chaos. Grant says, I bet the demographics of the mob look surprisingly similar to the demographics without fathers. Well, that's the kind of stuff that gets you shut down on YouTube, too, so follow the Rumble channel. I don't know why I'm even putting this in here, because anybody else is going to see it. It's going to see it on the replay. Grant says, by the way, these numbers are going to get worse, not better. At least that the trend, alternative, we could have a demographic collapse with not enough children, which I think is coming, by the way. But it won't get better because few people want to touch the policies and issues at the core of the problems, and the few that do lack the culture or political power to make any changes. And when I said that both Brandon Johnson and LBJ coming together both, and they were trying to make the government dad, essentially. Grant says, government is a lousy dad. Look at all the degenerates that daddy government raises. Yeah, that's fairly true, too. Grant says, what do the perp look like? Why no description? Guarantee the perp has a rap sheet. I don't think they were targeted. This is just NYC crime. Yeah, I think that's the case. Grant says, Lincoln is a historically black college and university. Also, Lincoln is halfway between Philly and Baltimore. That I didn't know. The Lincoln University story is not going to be made a big deal. No. A lot of these are probably going to disappear out of the news, actually, after the next couple days. Flip side, look at the bill Florida wants to pass to execute convicted pedophiles. Source material, Grant. Give me the source material and I will look at it. I mean, I'm still going to try to find it anyway, but give me the source material and I'll look at it. Can't see why people would want to move from Florida to New York. Probably not. Alright. But that's it. That's the end of the show. First time on Rumble. Hope we get some more people coming in here at some point. Hope we build up a new following over here, because I know Mr. Scott had suggested I go to Kick too, because that seems to be the up and coming one, which I will probably look into next weekend. I don't know that I'll have a chance to do it anymore this weekend, but I'll probably go out and give it a look at least. See what I can do. Maybe make a profile over there and get everything started. But it's just I want to spread the news. I want to tell the news from the point of view of the common man. It's what I've always wanted. What do I say at the top of the show? For too long, we've all got our news from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses. Yeah, there's no reason for that. There's microphones, webcams, and internet access is cheap enough that so many of us can do this. And some of us can rise. I still consider it a success that I can at least keep one person watching every night. But we're out of here. Let's find some outro music and head out of here. I gotta restart my computer again, and I don't know why. Like, I just did it, and now they want me to go do it again. I'll do that afterwards, and I'll go play, I'll play Civilization again, maybe. I don't know. Alright, but with that, we are out of here for the night. Thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat, which was Grant tonight, and everybody who lurked and listened. And we'll be back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully, Spectrum has their shit ironed out, because I'm kind of getting sick of that story, but hopefully we won't come here at a point where we'll start off and we'll be just dropping frames left and right and not able to get started and actually get started when we're here. But I think Rumble is here to stay, so looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing everybody here, the lurkers, the listeners, and the active chatters as well. Always looking forward to that and getting some more people going on. And we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. We'll see what happens in the next 22 hours. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.